Hi everyone, I'm Celine from Blue Calla Patterns. Welcome to the final video for the Stonecrop Organizer Satchel. I'm going to now do the final assembly. You're going to need your lining shell and your exterior, and we are going to put the two together. So you're going to need to open the zipper in your lining shell completely, and then you're going to insert your exterior inside of your lining shell. Okay, get it in there all the way. Now there's a few things you're going to want to do. You're going to want to make sure that your handles are facing downwards inside the bag. So you want them to be pointing towards the bottom. You're also going to want to make sure that your D-rings on the side are also facing towards the bottom. We don't want to accidentally sew over them because you're going to break a needle. Then you're going to start by lining up your four side seams together and clipping those. Now generally it should be a very snug fit, and that's what we want. You don't want anything to be loose, because you're going to have some puckering along the top edge of your bag if you do. Okay, and then once we have the side seams pinned or clipped together, we're then going to clip the rest of the top edges together. Okay. Now I know this is a bit boring to watch. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video and I'll finish adding all the clips, and then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so the top edges are clipped together, and I'm going to go over to my machine and I'm going to sew along the top edge. I like to sew twice to make sure that that top seam is really strong. Also, make sure that you double check that your zipper pocket is unzipped the entire way. Otherwise, you're going to have trouble turning your bag in the next step. All right, so I'm going to go and sew these together. Okay, so the top edge is sewn together, and here's the fun part where you get to watch me wrestle the bag through the opening at the bottom of the zipper pocket. I usually try to bring the bottom of the exterior shell out first, because that's usually the most difficult part to pull out. And then I bring the rest out. The rest seems to go fairly easily once you have the bottom pulled out. Okay. So now we need to do some top stitching along the top edge of the bag. I used cork, so I can't really press the seam allowance at the top. So what I do is I roll it in between my fingers, and I use clips to hold the seam how I would like it to be for top stitching. So I just roll it and then I put a clip. So if you're using cork or vinyl, you can do the same thing. If you decided to make your bag entirely in fabric, you can actually just press that top seam allowance Now here I make sure that my my lining fabric doesn't show on the exterior, so I really want to make sure that it's inside the bag. Okay, and I'm going to continue and do this around the entire top edge, and then I'm going to top stitch. Now it will get fairly bulky at those side seams, so hopefully you clipped away the foam corners like I showed you, and that will help a little bit depending on your machine. My machine is very good with layers, so I don't really need to worry, but if you're worried about your machine, I've heard hammering down the seams helps. You can also hand crank the machine over those side seams and just go slowly. The top stitching is important. I don't recommend skipping it. If you're really struggling, what I've done before I had my current machine, right now I have the HD9, but if I ever struggled with a machine in the past going over thick areas, I used to just top stitch in between the seams. And if you do a nice neat job of it, it looks quite nice. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do the top stitching along the top edge. Okay, so the top stitching is done at the top of the bag, and now we need to close up the bottom of our zipper pocket. So you just want to pull out the zipper pocket lining pieces and pin or clip those bottom folded edges, and you can either sew them shut by hand or you can sew them with your machine. I usually sew it by machine just because my hand sewing is not super. And you just sew as close as you can get to that bottom folded edge, making sure that you're sewing both of them. And then tuck that back in. I also recommend pressing your bag. So I like to stuff my bag and press it. Obviously I'm not going to press the cork, I'm just going to press the fabric parts. And then the last thing we need to do, we need to sew our crossbody strap, but obviously we also want to install our zipper end. So I'm going to get my zipper end. So the zipper end usually has two parts, a cap and a screw. Okay, so this is what the cap looks like. This is the wrong side, this is the right side. And then a tiny little screw. I'm gonna try not to lose it. So this is what the screw looks like. So I've already sealed the end of my zipper and it's as short as I would like it. I don't think I would like it any shorter. So looking at the wrong side of your zipper, I fold in the zipper tape so that it's in the same spot as the coil. And then I put a drop of glue inside the cap. I usually use E6000 for that. And then I make sure that I've got as much of my zipper inside the cap as possible. Okay, I have a little thread here I'm going to trim. And I'm really hoping that this is in focus. So I put the screw in. And you want to screw that in as far as it will go. Whoop. And that's what it looks like when it's done. Okay. And then the last thing we want to do is our crossbody strap. So I have a video already that shows how to make a crossbody strap in cork or in vinyl. And it's a way that makes for a less bulky strap at the rectangle, the rectangle slide. I am not going to repeat the contents of that video. You'll want to watch video 5 of the Baronia Bowler Bag series, and I'll include a link to that video in this description, in the description for this video. And you're basically going to follow exactly the same technique. The only difference for this bag is that my strap pieces are wider because I'm making a 1.5 inch strap instead of 1 inch like that video. So your pieces are 3 inches wide instead of 2 inches like in that video. And that will, at the end, when you folded them in, that's going to make a strap that's 1.5 inches wide. So I'll include a link to that video and to make your strap, and then you're going to clip the strap to your D-rings, and then your bag is done. Thanks for following along. I hope you enjoyed making the bag and that the video was helpful.